if they win the Stanley Cup at least once in that 8-year span for Nylander's contract, is the contract worth it? Is that enough? Does what needs to justify that contract?
For me, it would be, I don't know how Brad Treliving might answer that, but let's face it. What has this whole era really been about? I mean, Nylander, he's kind of a symbolic player, right? He was drafted the year that Randy Carlyle's team was the 18-wheeler off the cliff.
Yes.
That season, it's funny, I just was looking this up for a story I'm working on, but that season, the Leafs held a playoff spot on March 13th of that year. I mean, pretty close to the end zone, and they lost 7 games in a row in regulation from that point. That was the 18-wheeler off the cliff. They end up with the 8th overall draft pick. They made a pretty savvy pick in nabbing Nylander there. That was the first pick made after Brendan Shanahan had took over as team president. And, it's been an era from that point. Obviously, they went to more of, wouldn't say a full-scale tank, but a little tanky there to try to get Austin Matthews. That worked out for them. Obviously, getting Mitch Marner with the 4th overall pick in 2015 helped. But this kind of era has been, we're taking you back 10 years to where the sort of building started. The first blocks were put in place. It took a long while, say, for those players to become truly impactful NHLers. But it's all about ending the Leafs' long Stanley Cup drought. And sure, you'd like to say it's going to take 2 or 3 banners. I mean, everyone wants to be a Pittsburgh or a Chicago or a Tampa from this previous era. But I mean, if we're being realistic, I don't think Washington's too upset that they only got 1. I mean, of course they were trying to win every year, but they had a great team for a long time and they got the job done once. I think it justifies everything that happened. And so I would be of the view, if the Leafs could get the job done at some point, especially when they had this core put together, I mean, then it would answer that question, right? I see everyone saying, well, only one team, Vegas, has won with an 8-figure player on the roster, and the Leafs are going to have 4 as of next season. Well, it would at least answer the question. It's possible if they wind up doing it. So, for Nylander to make this deal look good, I think he's got to be an elite player. I would say for 6 of the seasons. Ideally it's through at least the period where you have Austin Matthews signed. So that would be at least 4 more. But I mean, let's face it, you sign an 8-year contract, you're not forecasting the guy to fall totally off a cliff. It's always it's not a question that Nylander's skills will diminish over those 8 years, or that his impact will likely be diminished, just by him slowing down, or the quality of players coming up, the younger guys in the league sort of pushing him down the food chain a little bit. It's just a question of how far down he is by the end of it. And he's signed through age 36. There are examples of players that are 36 in the league that still make a pretty strong impact on a nightly basis. If he can stay among that group, then I think we won't look back on this. I mean, the other factor is a bit beyond the Leafs' control, but if the cap keeps jumping up by a big margin each year, I think the weight of this won't seem as heavy, because you're going to see lots of players sign for more than $11.5 million. He's not going to be in that group of top 5 or 6 in the whole league, which he is on this day as he signs it. But, there could be a world in 3 years' time that, another 10 players have raced by him. I mean, I think a lot of that will be cap dependent. But yeah, I mean, there's nowhere to hide now. I don't think he's the sort of guy to hide. I think one of the reasons I don't hate the bet from the Leafs end is that he's really proven that he can perform under the spotlight in Toronto. He's been, as I mentioned, pretty consistent playoff performer for them on a team that's can't always say that at the end of a round. Like even, a couple of those years, that Montreal series, when you're like, okay, where were the goals? Like Nylander was a pretty consistent force through a series like that one. So, I think that there's at least some confidence there. And then obviously he's getting better. Now, the challenge is, he played 500 plus games before this season at a certain level, pretty damn good level of 40 goals last year, 87 points. But that's sort of, Philip Forsberg territory. As we record this, he's on pace for 47 goals and 120 points. I mean, that's how you end up with, the 5th highest AAV in the league at the time of your signing, because, you're getting into special territory now, but it's only 37 games. And I'm sure even as Brad Treliving signed this deal and he's excited to keep a good player, there's a little nerves that, is this just this one crazy year, or is this truly the sign of growth that could continue? And only time will be able to answer that question.